Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Yvonne Diaz, if I haven't introduced myself before, and I'm an ALK positive patient diagnosed in August 21. I'm really excited to have our next panel here with us today. Really exciting to have patients engaging in conversations with our clinicians and allied professionals here. So I'm going to be handing this over shortly, welcoming Nicole Stephens, who's going to be our moderator and introduce everyone here on stage. After the session, we have Breakthrough Cancer, and I hope all of you will stay and enjoy that naturally. After the two sessions, we're going to do our group photo, so please stick around, and if you have your shirts on, be prepared. We're going to be coming up here on stage and doing the group photo. We're also going to photograph 5 and 10-year survivors. So all of you who have reached that wonderful milestone, please prepare also to join those photos. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, there's also a really lovely patient story from Roche that's on the registration table. So make sure to get a copy of that at some point because that's available to all of us. So really, with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I know some of you guys probably can't see me. Hi back there. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Nicole Stephens, and I work at Takeda Oncology, and I'm the brand lead for our lung cancer products. First, I just want to thank the ALK Positive group for bringing all of us together here. This event, just like all of you guys, is something I look forward to every single year. And seeing all of you guys last night chatting and singing and just really enjoying life together. That's what this is about, right? Enjoying life and having fun. And it just warmed my heart so much. And so I'm really excited to be here today to moderate this session, Beyond Surviving, Perspectives and Possibilities in ALK Positive Lives. Just like all of you, cancer touched my life 10 years ago when my father was diagnosed. He was not ready for that diagnosis, and neither was I. I work in oncology, and I talk to patients all the time. And so I thought that I truly understood what it meant to be a cancer survivor and what that journey looked like. I thought more than anyone, I would be a great care partner to my father. And what I realized was I was not ready. I think what I learned is that no one is ready for this. And even more so is that tough conversations are not had enough. And that's why I'm really excited to be here today to learn from the perspectives around the entire cancer journey. We have patients here, we have care partners, we have healthcare providers, and we're going to be touching on some of those conversations that aren't talked about. And so without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce our panelists. So I will hand it over to Ruby to kick it off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ruby Blow, and like many of you, I am a stage 4 ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer survivor. And I've been on that journey since I was diagnosed in December 2018. I was 44 years young, and I was doing a lot of running around as a caregiver partner to my mother who had Parkinson's dementia. And I was running a professional counseling practice, and I found myself not being able to breathe at the end of the day. And this is the best community I never wanted to be a part of. That's a perspective 5+ years out. It changes. There's many people in first year, and I hope that you get something out of our discussion today.
Stephen?
Hey, everyone. I might have to use my teacher voice. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, all right. Stephen Huff, Nashville native. Anybody from Nashville in the house or Tennessee in the house repping? Go Big Orange. Diagnosed in 2017, and at a really interesting point in my life. I was 29, stage 4, and I was a former athlete. Grew up heavily involved in just taking good care of my body, or what I thought: exercise, fitness, regimen, eating healthy. And I was diagnosed 4 months before I was going to get married. And so a lot of times when I talk about my story, I like to kind of share the perspective of someone who's just essentially kind of starting their life. So I share a lot about, Confucius said it best: we all have 2 lives. The second one starts when you realize you only have one. And that was me at 29. So I'm excited to be here, excited to hear all the perspectives on the stage today, and hopefully what we can share will help you.
Wade?
My name is Wade Chocheles. I'm from Huntington, New York. I'm the care partner for a beautiful and positive woman by the name of Julie Posner. Julie, could you please stand up? We've been taking this journey for 4.5 years now, and I have to say it's had its ups and downs, but in general, she is the most positive person that I know, and we basically are going through this journey together. She's taught me to kind of live in the moment, because I always plan for the future. But now she says, let's do this, and I'm saying, yes, let's do it, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. So thank you, Julie.
Lovely. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Florez.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Narjust Florez, also go by NJ. I have a particular clinical and research interest in young patients with lung cancer, less than 50 years. And if there is a taboo subject in lung cancer, you will bet I will study it, including sexual health, financial toxicity, psychosocial needs, parking, which is a big argument I have every day. But today I also have another role that many of you don't know, and I'm the caregiver of my mother. That doesn't matter if your daughter is a thoracic oncologist, you can also be diagnosed with lung cancer, and it has been 2 years. So some of my answers will be from the doctor perspective, and some of that will be from the daughter I am every day.
Thank you for sharing that. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. You mentioned that you were diagnosed at a very young age. Your wedding was coming up in just 4 months. Upon learning that you had an ALK mutation, how was your life and your outlook impacted?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when I was diagnosed, I wanted to go to a deserted island by myself and just leave all my loved ones, including my fiance, and just I think because the mindset for me was I didn't want to drag anyone with me, and I can't find a better word, but ruin anyone's life, especially my fiance. And I'll never forget, it was 22 days it took to get the biopsy back. And those 22 days from the time I heard you have stage 4 lung cancer to when I ultimately found out that I had ALK positive, it was a living hell, to say the least. I was, I didn't want to get out of bed, and it was hard. It was really hard because I had just started my first job, real big boy job as a high school teacher. And so this was supposed to be the start of my life. My wife, or fiance at the time, we had just bought our first house. We had plans to start a family. We had plans we wanted to have 3 kids. Well, I wanted to have 3. She was like 4, maybe 5. And all of that just came to a halt, like a screeching halt. And I'll never forget my doctor calling me and saying, "Hey, we have your biopsy results. This is this is good. This is exciting news. She's like, I understand you just got this diagnosis, but you hit the lottery, essentially, with this ALK positive rearrangement. And I'll never forget that, because that impacted me on a level I can't even articulate, because it gave me hope. It made me feel confident in the fact that I was gonna start to feel better, and I did. I mean, within weeks, actually hours, I began feeling better, and that's what started the path to where I am today.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. Ruby, how, if at all, was your identity impacted or influenced by your cancer diagnosis?
I would say that the biggest shift initially, and a really important one, was when I got diagnosed. As I mentioned before, I was helping to care for my mother, who was, needed a lot of care, a lot of attention. And my first thought upon, having the oncologist walk into my hospital room and say, or the surgeon actually told me, I had two thoughts. One, I need to live long enough to take care of my mother. I did not want to die before her. And two, because I work as a counselor and I supervise other counselors, I help them get their license, I thought, I need to help my counselors get across the finish line and get their license. And this was important because even with getting a diagnosis, you're still yourself, but you're yourself from a different perspective, I think. And it gave me motivations for living, motivation to help care for my mother, take care of myself, not have her see me not okay as best as I could, and also to feel like I still had something to offer, a sense of purpose beyond being a patient. I went from caregiver to care receiver, and my community thankfully rallied around me. As some of you saw me walking around today, I was wearing a blue t-shirt in a sea of mostly black t-shirts, and it said Team Ruby across it. That's what I call my support community, my friends, my family, my former counseling students, and having community makes a world of difference. So I shifted from giving a lot to others in my community to receiving a lot from them and having to be more vulnerable.
And Ruby, what was that transition like? I hear all the time, I don't want to ask for help. So being a care partner and giving someone else that care, oftentimes it fills our heart, we want to do that, but it's hard to ask for help ourselves. What was that transition like, and how did you accept the help that people gave to you?
I find that it's different depending on the person. It's almost like your relationship to them can impact your level of comfort, and almost like whether or not you think that person can handle it, if you will. Like, how is this impacting them? Are they really okay? Or, am I going to drag them down? Am I causing harm to them? And I remember being a caregiver, or care partner. I like this new word. It's a labor of love. Like, I don't regret a moment I spent taking care of my mom. I actually miss taking care of her, even though it was really hard. I spent time in the airport yesterday helping take care of someone else's elderly mom. Anyway, I'm not supposed to say names, but we're Facebook friends. The daughter and I are Facebook friends now. I miss caregiving in that level that much. And so when I remember the joys of like giving to others, I realize that having others give to me, the ones who are offering especially, it's not a burden. It's really another level of connection, of relationship. And that vulnerability is a superpower because it can allow you to, I believe, extend your life. Like, it's much harder when you're alone, you know, hence our phrase, stronger together, because that's true. It's better to have people along the journey with you than to shut them out.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Speaking of care partners, Wade, you've taken on this title. I'd love to know, how do you maintain your loved one's care and well-being during this cancer diagnosis, especially ALK positive, and what challenges do you face day to day?
In terms of the actual day-to-day care, there really isn't so much because Julie is so positive. So I support her mentally. I go on the visits to the doctor after the scans, and I think that is the most stressful time for us. So when we would go to the oncologist visit, we would be a little bit nervous. Maybe we'd even argue a little bit, yell at each other, especially if we were in traffic going into New York City, and it would take 3 hours to get there, and we're going to be late for the visit. But afterwards, you know, they would come back out and say, you know, everything's good, your scans are clean. We'd, you know, breathe a sigh of relief, and we would basically go out and have a beautiful lunch and a martini to celebrate.
I love that.
Yeah. And in terms of, you know, the, when I say day-to-day care, really not much. You know, you know, if you have ALK, if you're ALK positive, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. And so I let her be who she is on that day. I'm just basically there to support her and, you know, just to provide comfort.
Now, care partners are very strong individuals, and I think, you know, we try to mask sometimes what we need as well. But this cancer diagnosis is at the patient level, but also the care partner and all of the loved ones levels as well. What do you do to take care of yourself?
Oh, what do I do? I exercise a lot. I'm a cyclist.
I love that.
I recently retired a year ago this past May, and I have now taken on a job as the sous chef to her. She's a professional in-home chef, and so now I'm her sous chef, pot washer, dishwasher.
How is he? Is he a pretty good sous chef? Oh, that's wonderful.
And you know, we have 2 new grandchildren, so you know, there's a lot to live for. And most of all, we just got engaged and we're going to be married next year.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. I love that. I hope you share some of your wedding photos with us. Dr. Florez, the next question is for you. How have care teams adapted to the needs to address what it means to live with lung cancer with patients and care partners? And how should they continue to adapt?
So the first thing is that every patient and every patient relationship with their care partners is different. There is no one approach that fits everybody. So I tend to, a lot of my patients are young, so I tend to call them before the first visit to say, hey, I'm NJ, I'm your doctor. You can call me NJ. We're gonna do this together. And I get to know them before I see them, just in that quick phone call. Because it's so scary. You don't know, you go and Google me and you're like, what is this lady? Then when we start getting to know each other, as you know, collect past medical history, I always throw questions that will help me understand. My favorite one is, how many grandkids? Which one is your favorite? That always opens the door because it's very stressful. So I try to get to know that in those first 20 minutes. What do you like to do for fun? What is your latest TV show? It may sound like it's not part of the appointment, but it's part of the appointment. And after that, I get to ask, what is important to you? And it changes from patient to patient. How will the next 6 months, what will be important for you? For some of my patients that are pregnant with lung cancer, is to see their baby. For some of my older patients, is to see the grandkid. For my mom was to go to the Patagonia. That was her dream. So she wanted a treatment to go to the Patagonia. So what matters to you is very different. I had a patient that wants to run an ultra marathon. And I had another patient that wants to go in an island for 2 weeks and no move. So that's what it looks to them, right? So I write that down in my note, what matters to you now, because it will change over time. And on top of that, I tend to tailor things to my patients because everybody's different. One question in my template is, what is your preferred way of communication? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to send you a text? Do you want me to send you a message? As a millennial, when our phone rings, it gives us anxiety. So for my young patients, a lot of them prefer patient gateway messages. So that's their choice. So I write that down. Visits. Do you prefer a virtual visit? And that's day one. And I move my clinics to Thursdays and Fridays because childcare is easier at the end of the week than Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. So we tend to have appointments very early at 7:30 in the morning. That's me adapting to them because their lives needs to continue. I just here as a background dancer. That's where I always tell my patients, and then we start like, rocking Backstreet Boys and Britney, millennials. And do you prefer to come this day or what time of the day? And that's the way to adapt to our patient's life. The healthcare system is broken in which the patient needs to adapt to what it works. What it works for you. When is the worst traffic? I have patients living in the Cape, and right now in the summer, the Cape is awful. It's like 3 hours to move 4 miles. So we adapt to that. We adapt to the Cape traffic. In December, no problem. So what matters to you now, and reassess as the treatment goes, how you want to communicate. Do you want virtual visits? Do you want in-person visits? Do you want that Friday 5 p.m. visit that people told me nobody wants to see you at 5 p.m.? There's people that are booking that visit like they're booking a hotel to Cancun. Is that Friday 5 p.m. is still open in August? I'm not kidding you, because it's easier to take a half afternoon on Friday than see me at 10 a.m. on a Monday. Honestly, I need to make. So also financial aspects, what is going on? Open the door to open questions that they think is very important. And adapt. And I have a wonderful team. I have a nurse practitioner that she's my work wife. She's on vacation right now, and I'm like, I think she's cheating on me or something. I miss her. So I have another nurse practitioner. She's like, I'm your side piece. I was like, yeah. And then I have 2 amazing nurses that also care for the parents with cancer, so they get it. So teens is really important in adapting to our patient's life. And I know that for my own mom, because my mom doesn't speak English. So we were trying to find her an oncologist that spoke Spanish, that live in New York, that live in this 4 blocks, and we found one. So adapting to the needs, I think, is very important, and that we evolve over time.
I think something that I admire so much about you is the relationship that you have with your patients and how caring you are with your patients, and the relationship that you've built and the trust that you've built to have these open and honest conversations is something that I'm sure everyone admires. You said something so beautiful about asking your patient what matters most. I think that's so important throughout this entire journey, whether it be treatment selection or, just caring the everyday for these patients. If they're not asked what matters most, what advice would you have for patients to be able to voice that to their doctor?
So I encourage lists in my clinic. Like if somebody comes with a list, I'm like, yes, right? Come prepared is very important, and mention and verbalizes what is important to you. No, everybody practices the same, but you can make your doctor practice the way you want to, right? So you can have goals and be very verbal. But I don't like to put things on patients, because they put a lot of things on my mom. And my mom is like an immigrant that doesn't speak English, that has lung cancer, and the daughter is a lung cancer doctor. And they put so much things on her. And it's like, but if they don't ask you, you can tell. And you can say in a patient gateway message, I told my patients, let's talk about vaginal dryness. You don't feel comfortable talking in person? Send me that message at 10 p.m. when you cannot sleep, and tell me everything that's going on with your vagina. Because sometimes you may don't feel comfortable saying in the visit, but you can send your goals over Patient Gateway. That's a way of communicating too. I just open it because it's a conversation. Now everybody's very comfortable about vaginas in my clinic. But the point is, if they don't ask you, you can send a message. You can put a goal. My mom's goal was, she was very specific in Spanish. She's like, I'm going to the Patagonia with your permission or without your permission. My mom is a judge. And the poor guy who learned Spanish, he's not Hispanic, he learned Spanish. He's like, okay. So she verbalized what she wanted. It. You can send a message, you can put it as a goal. And the goal doesn't have to be the Patagonia. They can be very small goals because we think about survivorship, about this big thing. It can be a little thing. One of my patients really wanted to learn how to make pasta. And that was her goal for 2 months. It's like, you ever cook? No, I don't cook. Okay, we're gonna learn how to make pasta. So the goals can be very different. It can be small, it can be big. What I cannot do is make the Patriots win again. I've been told a few times, can you make the Patriots win again? Can you make Brady come back? That would be my goal. It's like, I have that out of control. But the Celtics won this year, so that was very good for me. I had no control over it, but that was very important, right? So the goals change it. But Brady, I haven't had any luck. I did message him a few times on Instagram to see if he can do a video for my patient, but he never replied.
I love that. Boston fan myself. So if Brady comes back, I will be there. Question for you, Ruby and Stephen. How do you prioritize defining a meaningful life in your care discussions with your doctor? And what advice would you give to someone who's newly diagnosed to have these conversations with their doctors? Ruby, I'll start with you. Oh, do you want Stephen to start? Yes, please. All right, we'll have Stephen start.
Can you repeat the question?
I thought you were a teacher. Were you not listening?
That's an old tactic. It's called stalling. It's a great question. So I think, well, first, my wife is here, and she just got here. She's been home with our kids. We had a babysitting incident, so I just want my wife, Emily, to stand up in the back. Yeah.
Hi, Emily. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
I tell everybody every day that the drugs keep me alive, but she keeps me living. So I think my advice for new patients is it's changed over time. And I'll say that originally it was, it was like stay positive and, just figure out ways to stay positive. And I think my late friend and Gina Hollenbeck, she was a dear friend of mine, and I was talking to Gina one day, and she changed my whole perspective on cancer and my journey and how I sort of view in the steps and what I evaluate as good days, bad days, all these things. She's like, Stephen, it's, for you, it may be getting up and going to work. That's a win. But she's like, for some people, it's just getting out of bed. And so that really shifted my thinking to have grace on yourself and be able to give yourself the time that you need to digest things. And it's okay to be upset. Like I used to have this mindset of like, show strength, positivity. And it's okay to not be okay. There's lots of days where I wake up and I don't think about my cancer. I don't think about having stage 4 or being told I was, terminally ill and, all these things. And I have 2 wonderful little kiddos now that came into the world after my journey started. And so, it's okay to feel all those things, and it's okay to talk to someone or to find an outlet, like Wade was talking about exercise, or, finding something that you're passionate about. For me, it's setting goals. Just like NJ said, it's long-term goals. So if my wife already knows, If the Braves go to the World Series, if the Titans go to the Super Bowl, or Tennessee ever goes to the national championship, I get to go. Those are my long-term goals. No. And then short-term goals. Like for me, it's like every day just try to be the best dad I can and be the best husband I can. And I definitely am not perfect. And my wife will be the first one to tell you. But she supports me. My family supports me. And I have a great system around me that lifts me up. And so just have grace on yourself if you're a newly diagnosed patient. Give yourself all the full spectrum of emotions. Yeah.
Thanks for going first. The question was about a meaningful life. And there's different thoughts I have about it. Some of you know that I help to run some support groups for ALKs, as I refer to us. And we come in different stages, not just how long we've been living with being ALK positive, but also what our lives look like and how we are coming to a place of acceptance as well as defiance against our cancer. And I noticed that there are some ALKs who are single or widowed, and there are some ALKs who are, in relationship. Some ALKs have children, some don't. Some want grandchildren and don't have them. There are all these different aspects of life and relationship. And sometimes when you get a diagnosis like this, it feels like a really lonely place, even if you have some people close to you, because ultimately it's you going through the experience. And they do get to have times where they forget and potentially, depending on how close they are to you, not have to deal with it. But you always have to come back to it. And so I think in terms of creating meaning, a big part of it is recognizing that no matter whether or not you have certain people in your life in certain types of relationships, that it really starts with your relationship with yourself. Don't abandon yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Let yourself feel bad sometimes. I don't want everyone to think you have to be positive all the time, because that's not real. Real authenticity is sometimes you're upset. Sometimes you might be tearful. Sometimes you share that with other people. Sometimes it's just quietly to yourself. And if you're able to do that, then you can also let yourself feel joy. For me, creating a meaningful life means supporting people in the ways I just described. And I hope that I do that every single day.
I love that. And I think just by sitting up here today, you're doing that for everyone here, and each and every single one of you guys that is having these conversations. You're inspiring all of us. So I thank you for being here. Wade, how do we encourage everyone on the care team, from our HCPs to our patients to our care partners, to be a part of the conversation, whether it be caring for your loved one, speaking up when there are side effects, talking about treatment decisions? How do we ensure everyone's having part of that conversation?
I think first you have to start by being involved. I always say knowledge is power. So in my case, I basically listened to some of the ALK talks, or sat behind Julie as she was listening, just to hear what was going on. I've been to, I think this is our third conference. I go to all the visits. When she listens, I'm the second set of ears that listens. Yeah. So we discuss it afterwards. And sometimes we come up with different things, and then she knows she's got to go back and revisit it again. Sometimes, when she's, like I say, when she's not feeling that good, I understand why. Maybe it's a side effect of the drug. So, like I say, I'm there to support her and to just love her unconditionally.
That's beautiful. And I think you said 2 years are better than one. And I think that's so important, right? Because we miss a lot of these conversations, or you take it out of context, or, you're dealing with heavy stuff. So being able to take that and have that conversation at home, that open and honest communication, I think is only going to help moving forward. So that's great advice. Ruby, I have another question for you. As the ALK positive space continues to see new medical advancements, which is amazing, by the way, how does this shift your perspective on the future?
Oh, that's a good question. My sister is here with me. She also attends these ALK summits, and I mention that because in one of my earliest oncology appointments, when I too got the news, "Oh, you're lucky," which I don't enjoy. I didn't enjoy it then, and I don't enjoy it now because I deal with a lot of side effects, hence the fanning. But anyway, my sister was at that appointment with me, and I thought I was going to take the medication, the cancer was going to go away, and I could stop taking the meds. And I thought that for 3 months. And when I got my scans, the cancer was gone. And when I asked the doctor when I could stop taking the medication, he said, "No, you have to take this medication until it's not working anymore, and then we'll try a different medication, if there's one available." And I talked to my sister about it. She was like, "I understood that, but you seemed to be doing well with what you were thinking. And I knew eventually, you would come around." And I say all that to say is, a part of me is still that person in the beginning. I think we will, if we believe that we can have a cure for ALK positive lung cancer, I think we can. I want us to start believing that, and not that I don't appreciate these maintenance medications that are keeping us alive, but I want more than that. And I want all of us to want that and to believe that and to have that. I want the lives of the ALKies that have gone before us, like Gina that was mentioned, and so many others. Stephanie, so many people that we saw on screen today. I want those who did trials and who have fought for us, and even those ALKies who didn't do any of that. Maybe they posted on Facebook, tried to raise some money, or maybe they just tried to live the best life they could. I want all of us to have a cure.
I think that deserves a round of applause, right? Absolutely. I think that's why we're all here today. Stephen, you have 2 little children and so much life to live, right? To hear, with these new advancements, how does your outlook on life look? And, has this changed your identity over time?
Yeah. If you want to see me cry, that's the perfect question. Yeah. So I think growing up, my entire identity was consumed by being healthy, and I played baseball in high school, and I was fortunate enough to play in college and a little bit of professional. And so I really struggled with my identity post my athletic career, because up to that point, that's all I knew. I was Stephen the baseball player, And so when I started the real world and I met this amazing girl, I had sort of shifted everything, that I was going to become a coach and a teacher, because I just I love that aspect of life and being able to help train those, the next generation. And so I sort of shifted my identity, and then I got this diagnosis, completely unexpectedly. And so I certainly struggled with an identity crisis. And, being 29 years old and being engaged to the love of your life and being, having your first house and have all these grandiose plans that you have dreamed of since your childhood feel as though they were taken away in just an instant was absolutely life-changing for me. And so I think, Emily and I, when we had talked about starting a family prior, after I got this diagnosis, I was hesitant to even have that conversation. And I think if not for my amazing oncologist, and she said, Stephen, you're young, you're going to do really well on this drug. You have hit the lottery with ALK positive. I think you should go and make the arrangements so that you guys can have kids if you want down the road. And I remember walking out of there and telling Emily, I was like, that's the last thing on my mind. I am just not concerned with that. I just want to live another month. And so, Emily and I talked about it, and she's right. She was right. The doctor was right. Oh man. So we did. We went to the fertility center. We made the arrangements. I started treatment shortly after, and it was probably a year or so into my first year as survivorship, and I was doing extremely well. I just felt good. I had all this hope and just all the positive conversations and advancements in ALK positive, and the future is so bright. And Emily and I just kind of looked at each other and we said, I think we should start a family. And so I'll never forget, we went through the whole process. It's a very long process, and lots of anxiety for sure, because I'm still going in to see my oncologist every 3 months, and this is a year process. So each time we had a good scan, we celebrated. So Wade, my wife and I go get Mexican food, and we get margaritas. So
Nice.
Very close to martinis, but and we've been doing that for 7 years. And so January 29th of 2020, we welcomed our first son, Owen, into this world. And sorry. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And he's, between Emily and Owen, and then my daughter Violet, who was born on August 1st of this most recent year, they gave me the two best titles that I could ever get in my entire life of husband and dad. So, for that, I have no words other than just they're what keep me living. So very grateful to have that opportunity and have the great healthcare provider that sort of guided us in that conversation. And my son's about to turn 5, and my daughter turns 1 in 2 weeks. So very, very grateful for all of that.
It's wonderful. I think if we think about 7 years, a marriage, 2 children, this is what living is about. And I think we can all take inspiration from that. And it might not be a marriage or 2 babies, but it could be a grandchild, right? And I think just the hope that we all give each other is so inspiring, and finding the little joys in life is absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Florez, I have a question for you. How do you allow space for a person's identity and the role it plays in how they approach their diagnosis and definition of living?
So before I do that, I want to talk about how I celebrate with my mom. She needs to hang out with you guys. It would be cheaper for me. So the goal was to get to the Patagonia after she finished chemotherapy, and then fortunately that went well, and she has oligometastatic disease. I believe in consolidation. I consolidated my own mom. She goes surgery, then Patagonia after chemo, then after surgery was Egypt. Yeah, it's going great. After ocular radiation was China. She has choroidal metastasis, and now she's had scans next week. I don't know what the destination is going to be, so I have to save for the goose scans. I love that she travels, but she also travels with a friend. And the first trip to the Patagonia, the friend say, I would go with your mom. But now it's like, the friend also comes. So it's just a great way to celebrate. But yeah, I don't know where she will go next time, but that's her goals. So identity is, everybody is very different. We have to take into account cultural differences. We need to take into account language differences, environmental differences, and also support differences. And that's what makes a patient an identity. And getting to know patients beyond, no patients, I don't say patient, I actually call my patients my ladies. Getting to know my ladies is the greatest part of my job. To know what matters to them and to celebrate it, who they are. And they do better like that. No like, oh, you wanna, no, you should do this. No, you shouldn't do this. This is what you want to do. Let's figure out how we can get there together. For smoking cessation, I'm the director of smoking cessation. If you quit smoking, I will dance the Macarena with you in front of my staff. Been doing it for years, since I was at Mayo, since 2019. So that's something that I try to say, let's do this together. Let's bring things together. But how can I say this? Patients' identity also change over time, and it's our job to understand that. Stephen has been a great model for my young patients, and the identity changes. Fight, then we have a baby, so now we focus on that now. What matters to you, again, is very important. What do you like to do? And one of the things that social media has brought is patients' connection. But it's also very important that my patients, I told them, don't compare your insides with other people's outsides with social media. I had the honor, this is public information, of treating ultramarathon runners. And I had a patient that came and said, but this patient that I met in your waiting room, she just ran for 2 days. And I asked, did you run before your lung cancer diagnosis? No. Had you run like because you like it? No. I understand you want to do that, but let's compare to what you want to do that you are able to do instead of comparing yourself to an ultramarathon runner because I cannot even do that, right? And I don't have cancer. So I think it's very important to also provide grace and understanding because comparison is the thief of joy, and social media has brought that up. Even my mom is like, my mom has gained a lot of weight, like around 30 pounds. And she keeps saying like, oh, but the other people didn't gain that weight. And it's like, okay, this is important to you. Let's get the weight loss medication and fight for it. And another thing is language. We need to understand the language barrier. Both of my parents don't speak English. And that's part of their identity, and understanding that me trying to break it down in my very street Portuguese is not the right way to do it, but to be an interpreter. But finally, we should celebrate our ladies and gentlemen and non-binary for who they are. The cancer doesn't define you. I love, I get dressed for clinic. I dress up for clinic because my ladies like to dress up, and I encourage them to dress up. They feel happy dressing up, and then we compare tips. I did a live with a nail salon because they wanted to care about that. Skincare, body image is our patient's identity, and it shouldn't be minimized. Like dry skin for TKIs, if it dries the skin, it dries the vagina. So this is important. So body image is identity. So I really try to know what is important for your culture, your behaviors, your environment. And also, it is good to dress up. I have a few patients that are like, oh, I'm gonna show you the next outfit when I come back. So it's not all about cancer, it's about who they are and how we share that. I have a patient that if he compliments me in my outfit, it makes my day. So it's just that relationship.
Yeah.
And everybody's so beautiful, and everybody deserves to be celebrated, not tolerated.
I love that. And yes, round of applause for that. And Dr. Florez, I have another follow-up question. This morning, Dr. Kamich presented and reminded us that behind every treatment is a person. And we have the unique circumstance right now that we have a lot of treatment options on the market to choose from, and quality of life is becoming more of a conversation. So how are you having those conversations with your patients?
The first thing is no patient should be put in a spot of making a decision right there. We do pros and cons. I write it down. I don't know if some of my patients have some of my scribbles for years. And I write it down, and these are the options. Let's talk about what is good, what is bad in each one. Read it, take it home, analyze it, send me a patient gateway, and call me. So we make the decision together. I provide reading information and encourage them to read, and also how people make decisions is very different. Hispanics, for example, we make decisions as a family nucleus. So go to your family, go to your wife, go to your fiance, find out what will work. It depends if you involve your people, your family in decisions. My mother involves me sometimes. Sometimes I don't even know what's happening, but that's her choice. So we write things down. I don't like to put people pressure on it. And I try not to give my full opinion, at least they ask for it. And one of the things about treatment, I tell my patients, you're not signing with blood now that you're part of a conclave with this treatment. If we start this treatment, it doesn't work for you, we figure something out. Because it has to work for you, nobody else, and we do that. And another thing that we need to take into account is, unfortunately, sometimes insurance companies make the decisions for us, and it's awful. And again, I'm very persistent. But getting to persistence and approve, I need to start some treatment. So that is also very important. Write it down, make decisions, and if you cannot make the decision, back. That's why we have virtual visits. Dr. Florez, can we go over it again? Let's go over it again, dear. And we break it down. Because decisions are difficult, your goals change, and there are other external factors like the member from Canada that cannot get the drug that need to be taken into account.
Thank you. I love the way that you're connecting and making that personalized decision with the patient. That's absolutely wonderful. So we've come towards the end. So I have, some final remarks that I'd love to hear from each of you guys. What is one piece of advice you would have liked to have to balance the emotional and physical weight of living with lung cancer? Ruby, I'll start with you.
It changes over time. Right now, I just really feel compelled to share, just based on some conversations I've had today and our conversation in the panel, don't compare your journey to anyone else's journey on any level, because you can come away feeling inadequate, like, why am I going through this difficulty, or even envious? I want to, if I have to go through this cancer, I want to go through it like this person. Like, your journey is unique to you and it's your own, it's valid. And so I think don't compare to others. You could have far greater outcomes than you're expecting. And so, don't believe the numbers. I think try to hold out hope for yourself. Those are, I think, important things. And lastly, I want to say, don't go it alone. Even if you don't have whatever a traditional care partner might be. My sister asked me earlier, which I thought was funny. She goes, "Do you have a care partner?" And I was like, "Well, you're one of my care partners." And then I asked a friend who was here, I was like, "Did you bring a care partner?" And she goes, "A care partner?" So people think differently about the terms, but it's just whoever's supporting you in your life. And If you look around and nobody is supporting you, it could be people want to, but you're not letting them in. So I just want to remind everyone to, no matter where you're at 6 months or 11 years or 12 years, everybody needs support, and make sure that you're allowing that for yourself.
Stephen? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it was about 6 months after I was diagnosed, and I remember, you know, Emily and I had started this conversation of like, hey, we're in a good spot. Like, I feel great. I'm working. She's working. Our family's clicking. You know, scans have been good, and I think she actually got me a book. It's by one of my favorite authors named John O'Leary. And if you've ever heard of him, he's a public speaker now, a motivational speaker. And he had a very traumatic incident when he was a kid. He was almost killed in a fire. And he has now gone on to be this inspiration for hope. He was not supposed to survive. And I read his book on fire, and the key takeaway that I got in that moment, and I'll never forget, was no matter what happens to us, you know, in our lives, don't adjust your what you want in life. And for me, it was to marry Emily. It was to have kids. It was to continue pursuing goals, short term, long term. And, you know, I sort of correlated it to cancer in the sense that, like, you know, scans tell you about, you know, stabilization, no evidence of disease, progression, but they don't tell you how to live your life. And for me, it's going back to, like, I beat cancer by the way I live, and scans will be what they are. And so, you know, it's taken me a long time to get at peace with that. I still struggle severely with scanxiety. Anytime I'm you know, a day out or a week out, I see that notification on my phone that's like, oh shit, sorry, I got to scan next week. But it's gotten better, and I think just relying on that, you know, I'm gonna go in, they're gonna tell me what my results are, and then nothing physically is gonna change with me in that moment. So why should I let this looming over me predict how I act and respond and what I focus all my energy on? And so I think that's really it, just is focusing on what I want out of life and pursuing it, and not letting a scan on a piece of paper dictate how I feel.
That's great advice. Wade?
What I would say is be positive. Be positive. Get as much knowledge as you can about the disease, because I believe knowledge is power, and the more power you have, the more confident you can be. Have a lot of patience as a caregiver. Yeah. You know, also understand what the side effects of the drug may be, because, you know, on a Saturday night when you're going out and you find your partner in her dressing room, which is, you know, a converted bedroom that's got clothes all over, and she's crying, saying she has nothing to wear, you'll know it had nothing to do with you.
Yeah. That's great. And Dr. Florez, any last comment to leave the audience with?
So before I comment, I want to ask a question. How many of you have felt good after a good cry? Right? So a way to balance emotional and physical is also to leave the emotions. I think we continue to tell patients they need to be strong, but there are moments which a good cry is therapeutic. And I want to give all of you grace to have a good cry with ice cream, a good cry with a reality TV show. It is okay to have a good cry. It's good to have a couch day. You all are warriors. You're all super strong. But taking a day off to be a hero can be very hard. So a good cry is my prescription to many of my patients. By yourself, cry if you want to. Is a good way to balance these out because the message is to continue to be strong. And being strong is living your emotions. And before we end, I want to say, as somebody has moved, to my former patients, sorry I'm not there anymore, but I'm here. So it's good to have a good cry. Thank you.
Love that. You know, it's when we all come together, we're stronger together, and we all have the same goal to cure ALK positive. And so I'm just really excited to be up here on stage with these amazing people. So let's hear it for a round of applause for all of our panelists today. And thank you so much.